clear that the APC realized that it may have entered into a legal battleground, especially within itself, as a lot of people have gone to court. In Lagos, there are about 2 cases. In Imo State, there is another one, hoping to challenge a possible elongation of tenure of the NWC, the National Working Committee of the APC, and the state executives across the states. Now, the question is, the party has set up a technical committee to consider the suggestion of the president that they do need to do an election based on what he feels the Constitution and what his advisors have said based on the Constitution of the APC and that of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we're getting some political and legal perspectives to this matter on the program. We do understand that the governors may be meeting later tonight, well, maybe to get a headway. But what will the technical committee be doing? That technical committee is being filled by members of the APC who are also lawyers. Let's get back to our Abuja studio, where my panel tonight are Mr. Clement Cletus Obun is a chieftain of the APC and a former lawmaker in Cross River State, and also Mr. Daniel Buala, a legal practitioner and a political analyst. Thank you for your time on the program, gentlemen. So let's continue. Mr. Obun, you were on that point and you were arguing that there is a need for an election.
Clearly. So let me say this to you. Nigerians, the APC, as it is today, is forced into a quagmire, an unnecessary dilemma. It's a false dilemma. We are in no crisis whatsoever. It is just being created for some people to benefit. The question to ask, a political party is a party because it seeks power in order to better the condition of the people it is seeking to govern. As long as there is no election to seek power, you are running a club, an association, or an age grade. It will not be a political party. Therefore, if we are going to get a party that is in place, and the sole purpose is to keep people as national chairman, as state chairman, as state officers, and run no election, or run election you are so sure you are going to lose, then clearly we are not there. The technical committee will do us an administrative situation which is created by our constitution, which is the principle of affirmation. If we must continue the way forward for me, without indeed overbeating and overheating the system, is for this executive as it is to seek to ask for an affirmation in the congresses from the wards to the national level at the National Convention. In that way, you will be hurting nobody because we are afraid of going to the maternity ward and we are afraid of going into the labor room because of the bed pangs, and therefore we should avoid getting pregnant. We are already pregnant, so we must get to the maternity ward. So the way out which the Constitution creates for us, luckily for us, is that the technical committee made of about 4 or 5 senior advocates is going to come to confront us. Nobody will sit in Abuja and conduct election in Bokilu.
Mr. Obun, let me ask you. You're a politician. Let me quickly put this to you. Sorry, if I may quickly put this question to you, Mr. Obun. And the question will be, as a politician, what is the implication of having a national election and also state elections, which, of course, there are always problems after such processes at a point in time when the party is preparing for a crucial national election? Isn't it very, very sensitive and dangerous for the party?
Precisely why I said to you that if you do affirmation, which is permitted by our Constitution, we have the same 4 years. You don't need... I'm asking the question, after 12 months, will you conduct a congress or convention that is going to bring people in for 4 years? What is that 1 year for if you have to stay for 8 years? Given the Section 17 and 223 of our Constitution, Nigerian Constitution, which requires 4 years, 8 years. The only exemption being that if you are completing the tenure of an officer who resigns or dies, you will not be, the 2 years or 1 year that you use will not be counted against the person who completes that tenure. That's the only exemption. As long as you have expired your 4 years, you can't stay beyond 4 years. It's like the Jonathan crisis of about 6 years. Of completing the tenure of Yaradua and coming to do 4 years and asking for 4 years. That will give him 10 years. That was the dilemma. Will these 12 years be counted as part of the 4 years that is remaining, or will it not? So we better take the 4 years through an affirmation which can be conducted by this technical committee and lead us down the line. But I think there is a Jonas in this ship. discussing this problem.
Let's get the lawyer on the
wanting to
program
tell the truth on
back
that.
into the conversation. Mr. Bwala, if you look at the Article 13 of the APC Constitution, it does state that the National Convention of the party has the power to ratify policies and programs of the party, yes, elect or remove the national officers of the party, elect the presidential candidate of the party. There is none of the election powers that is domiciled in the organ such as the National Executive Council of the party, which is the NEC. So what you have seen perhaps that a PDP, for example, had suffered in the past, wouldn't the APC be suffering from it if they had entered into the tenure allegation? Or they have actually done.
Thank you for making reference to Article 13, and I will dwell on that. Look at sub 3 of Article 13. Part of the powers of the National Executive Committee is to take any decision that is necessary for the purposes of preserving and maintaining the gains of that political party. It is provided for in their constitution that the NEC can take decisions that are necessary. If you juxtapose sub 3 of Article 13 with 17 and A, even the operative words of 17 and 8 says, except as otherwise provided in this constitution. In other words, you can interpret that section 17 sub A is subject to 13 sub 3 of the articles, taking decision at critical time that is good for the purposes of preserving the gains of the political party. Let me also tell you this. If there is no crisis in APC, then the demolition of the building in Kaduna must have been a friendly fire. If there is no crisis in APC, then the fracas between the executive and the National Assembly is a romance and courtship. If there is no crisis in APC, then the problem between the Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and the chairman Oyegun is just a mere communication. If there is no crisis in APC, the multiplicity of court cases across the length and breadth of this nation is mere moot court. The presence of crisis does not suggest the explosion of bombs and guns and grenades. The presence of crisis is coming to a point where the situation, as you look at it, cannot otherwise be solved until certain decisions are taken. In 2015, the court in the land affirmed the doctrine of necessity. Electoral Act provides that all congresses and primary elections are to be conducted in respective states. From Rivers State to Taraba State, the primaries were conducted here in Abuja. It was challenged. Right up to Supreme Court, it was affirmed that under the given situation, because of the crisis in those states, it was proper and acceptable for them to hold the primaries there. Secondly, all election tribunals, governorship election tribunals, were to be held in their respective states. Most of the tribunals in trouble spots were held here in Abuja. And the courts, right up to Supreme Court, affirmed that the doctrine of necessity is not a legal theory. It is a permissible doctrine under a framework of the law that sometimes provides for adulteration or circumvention of the Constitution for the purposes of providing overall good of the party. Hear me, Sheun, and let Nigerians hear. Thank me later. If the tenure elongation does not hold, and they go into Congress in June, the kind of multiplicity of crises and court cases that would erupt, APC would not be prepared by 2019.
All right, Mr. Bwala, we must go. We're out of time, unfortunately. That's how we're going to leave the conversation tonight. But I must thank you, Mr. Daniel Bwala, legal practitioner, and also Mr. Cletus Albon, member of the APC. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the program. That's our show for today. Many thanks for being part of it. We'll keep our tabs on the APC governors meeting, and we'll give you updates on Channels Television as we get in. I'm sure I'll keep out of everyone. Bye-bye.